apparently, before this, we record this via Zoom, in case anybody's curious. And I apparently clicked like AI notes or something. At least Ed was telling me that it said that
It
there's a
was a
chance
pop-up. Yeah.
there's a chance I am taking AI, doing the AI notes for this episode on Zoom, which everybody I'm sure knows what Zoom is, and everybody I'm sure is aware that they do AI notes. If that is the case, if I did accidentally click that button, those will be in the show notes for this episode, which you will be able to find in the show notes of this podcast and also on, where's our YouTube channel? YouTube.com/@the
At
walk
the walk
car.
car.
Yep, I always get that wrong, but that's where I will hide our YouTube or our AI notes. I am Phil Royle. I am one of the podcast hosts here and of the blog, and I've been doing this for a little while. 20? No, I'm not even going to say how many years because that's how I roll now. And then I also try to sell T-shirts, which get them while you can. thewalkcar.com/store. I'm wearing one now. If you're on there you go. If you're on the YouTubes, you could have seen that, and you too could own yourself one of those. And there's other stuff on there as well. Help support the blog, the podcast. On to you, Ed.
Ed Sanchez, I want to say 10 plus years in automotive content creation and moderation. Current day job, automotive electronics industry analyst, and the Watt Car co-founder and contributor.
You know, I don't even remember what I just said for the last couple of minutes. I just rattle stuff off. I don't even try to think about the intro. Or else you just never start recording and you're like, what am I going to talk about? And so I don't even
I
remember.
have plenty to talk about.
I basically black out for about 30 to 40 minutes when we do this episode. And then I come to and I'm like, we had an episode.
Ta-da.
It's new to me. You apparently have been out this last week. You sent me a text and it was the front of a Leaf charging. And you had some comment about something, isn't Tesla great? I chose correctly. Down with Chatamo. I'm paraphrasing.
Yes.
What was that all about? Why all of a sudden are you driving around slumming it in a compliance car? Put your hate comments on the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thewalkcar. In the compliance car of a Leaf. It was an older Leaf. It wasn't the
Not the
what?
new one.
Not the new, but it was the current generation, I guess, the one that you could
Yeah.
purchase. All right, what's the story behind that? Why in the world would you dirty yourself riding around in a non-Tesla?
It was a friend who had her car in the shop, and so this was the rental. And
Wow.
she's very kind of green and progressive and all that, but it also happened to be the only one they had available. So I guess that's how popular Nissan Leafs are for rental cars.
So there were
Say-
like no
they
other cars
said-
on the lot.
Well, they basically said, we don't have any cars, but we do have this one. And I
Oh,
guess,
You could call it a car.
well, she got it and it had like 11 miles of range left when she got it. So then, this mad dash to find a Chatamo charger.
I
we found-
badmouth Leafs. You can get back to your story in a second. I badmouth Leafs. It's a hobby of mine. But I was shopping for one probably a year ago, and that 11-mile range, when you get into the used market, is not far off of what some of them can actually achieve. They're in the 30 to 40-mile range because they've got, I forget, they go in like a bar rating and they're down to like 3 bars or whatever it is. And so they're like 30-mile range. So 11 miles actually might be the full range on some Leafs.
Yeah, the early Leafs had air-cooled batteries, which didn't fare very well in
No.
Arizona and Texas. And so anyway,
Yeah. Okay. So she got the car, you're cruising around and you're like, we've gone 5 miles. I need to charge.
we found a charger on PlugShare. But okay, so this, and I think we've talked about this before, and I'm sure you'll have opinions on this as well.
Me?
Yes. So this particular, it was a kind of a no-name kind of network that I'd vaguely heard of before, but it's not, it wasn't like EVgo or ChargePoint, or it was some off-brand, like whatever. In fact, we both made fun of it because the logo was like, it looked like late 90s pixelated. It's like
They stole the clip art and then made a
took the
logo.
clip art and blew it up, and it was all like pixelated. So
Yeah.
that's
They
how
took the free
professional it
sample of
was.
the clip art and made a
Pretty much,
logo.
yeah.
Sweet. So this was, you went to a We Charge You site.
Yeah, yeah, we charge you, yeah. And so what's weird is it had a QR code, but it also had a card reader. And also like a little slot. So presumably you'd think, oh, well, you just, put your card in there, start charging, no muss, no fuss. So evidently, not only do you have to, you, so you couldn't just use your own payment. You had to download the app and then do the payment. So to me, that kind of defeats the purpose. I don't know. To me, it's like if there's a card, like a charge card reader, by charge card, I mean like debit or credit card
Hmm.
reader, you'd think you shouldn't have to fool around with an app. You just swipe or tap the card, start charging,
Yeah.
right? So we visited two different sites, tried three different chargers. The last one, I happened to have it happened to be an EVgo, and I happened to have an EVgo app. So I just told her this one's on me. It's like I have the app. I think I can get it. It seems like it's working. It was making happy noises and flashing green lights. So I'm like, okay, that's good. But it was just such, I'll admit I'm kind of spoiled being a Model 3 owner and using the supercharger network. It is literally plug and play. It's like pull up, open your port, plug it in, starts charging, boom, done. Having to go through this, I was like, if I owned any other EV, I would probably not buy another one because it was a miserable experience. So, um, yeah, I mean, I think the industry at large made the right decision to adopt NACS. Now, granted, the whole like seamlessness of payment, like if you're using a Tesla supercharger, you have to be registered with Tesla and have a method of payment on file. But once you've gotten to that step, I think it's relatively plug and play. Not quite as seamless as if you own a Tesla, because it's kind of an all integrated ecosystem. I think there is one additional step, but nothing like this was.
I think, um, so I'm not going to defend Chatamo,
It's indefensible as far as I'm concerned.
but I will defend a little bit of the ease of charging, just in general, Chatamo or not. I think when you own a vehicle, it's different from when you borrow a vehicle. If
Mm-hmm.
I went tomorrow and handed you a diesel truck and it had 10 miles of range left on it, you would probably be like, oh crap, where do I charge? Because when's the last time you got diesel in your area? Like, never, probably.
No,
You
but
would
I'd
have to.
probably look up Gas Buddy or something and
Yeah, well, I guess you're a bad example. Your average person, if you handed them a
average.
diesel vehicle, they
Yeah.
would struggle, as I mentioned the other week, people struggle, me included, on remembering which side the gas filler's on a car. So
Mm-hmm.
don't give me electric plugs on both sides. Just pick one because I can't even remember with a gas car. But if I handed somebody a diesel, they would probably have just as difficult of a time going and being like, oh, where's the diesel? Where's it not? Is it not all gas stations have it? Yada, yada, yada. So what you end up doing, back when I was a super commuter, I used to commute, it was about 90 miles
Mm-hmm.
through LA. I lived in one county north of LA, worked in the county south of LA, drove through LA every single day, and then whatever.
I don't know how you did it, man.
Different days. But that was a long while, like a long
Yeah.
ways. I would fill up every day or every other day.
Mm-hmm.
And I would go to the same gas stations pretty much every time because it was comfortable. You knew where they were. You could get in, you could get out, you do your business, and you go. If I needed to go to the bathroom on the drive, I knew that this
Mm-hmm.
McDonald's had this stop at this exit. That was where I went. You make a routine out of it, so then everything becomes more efficient. Maybe that's just the way I think,
Mm-hmm.
but that's what I ended up doing. So I think if you gave me a vehicle with Chatamo plug, because you would have to give me one, I'm not going to buy one.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that there would be much pain involved in the charging, or as much as you think, because you would find the charger that's convenient.
Sure.
You generally are driving the same routes. You
Mm-hmm.
would charge at home, and then you would have like, oh, well, I'm going to go to work or to the mall or whatever it is,
Mm-hmm.
and
Mm-hmm.
you would find those chargers. and you
Hmm.
would always fill up at the same place. So I think you hand the person the thing at the beginning and they've never done this before, there's a big learning curve with it. Much like give me your Tesla and then tell me to go and fill it up. I would have a learning curve to go with that because I wouldn't have the app. I wouldn't have anything registered with
No, but
payment.
I'm a good enough friend. I'd give you a
Well,
preview.
yes, but like if somebody just handed me the keys to, or handed me the card or whatever it is, and I would have a learning curve there. Even
Yeah.
though it's the best system going, there would be
Sure.
a learning curve where can I even do it? I don't even. I assume I can take your car and charge it
Why wouldn't you?
on like if I.
It would charge me.
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. So yeah, no, that's fine. I'll just
No,
charge you.
well, it's funny you mentioned that though, because the same friend actually rented a Tesla when she was in like the Chicago area, and so she was freaking about oh how are they going to pay that? How's this going to get paid for? I guess the ones that are through like Avis or Hertz or whatever, the supercharging bills directly to her rental
Oh,
bill.
that's nice.
Yeah.
I've never rented an EV through
Hmm.
those before for my work
Hmm.
trips because every time I go and I'm going to rent one, I ask the people that I'm with, "Hey,
Hmm.
can I rent this?" And all of them are like, "Nope."
No,
They're like, if we end up not showing up where we need to be
because of you.
because of you, we're going to be really ticked off." I talked about it last year. I was going to rent it for one place, and there was literally
Yeah.
one level 2 charger in the town that we were going to.
Yeah. Maybe not the best idea.
Yeah. All right. So
Anyway,
you're going to sell your Model 3, get yourself a Leaf. Recommend the first generation Leafs that you can buy on Craigslist for like $300 or $3,000, and they go 30 miles.
yeah.
Highly recommend. You'll get
Yes.
to know where all the Chatamos chargers are.
And
With
that'll
that.
be
Be something.
yeah. Sorry, my audio suddenly got a little faint for some reason. Oh,
Ah,
there it
you
is.
sound great.
No. Anyway.
All right, let's move
Uh
on. Tesla robo taxis. They are all over Austin now,
eh,
everywhere,
I wouldn't
just
say
as promised.
all over. There are some.
But we were promised robo taxis,
Well, they exist kind of.
driverless, of course.
Well, with the safety passenger, I guess.
To Tesla's defense here, this is probably the closest they've been to making a deadline in possibly the entire
Ever.
history of the company. I don't know pre-Elon days how they did on making any kind of deadlines, but
I think they were just trying to keep the lights on
yeah,
for
they were
Elon.
they were just trying to find a sucker investor before, and they got
And they got the
they got
motorball sucker
yeah
investors.
yeah who has since taken over the entire automotive industry. So okay, so they were gonna what was it the 22nd of June, something like that was when it was supposed to
Supposedly, yeah.
be driverless, fully autonomous cyber cabs or whatever it was, and what we've ended up with is apparently Model Ys, is that correct? With a
Yes.
Tesla employee sitting in the passenger seat with his hand over a big button, I would guess, that
Or
says, "Oh
something.
crap." They're taking passengers though, right?
Yeah.
Okay. All
But
right.
this is just like a VIP list, invite
Oh,
only.
really?
Yeah. This wasn't general public. This was like influencers and, friends of Elon.
Wow. Okay, so they didn't make the deadline,
I mean, they did a dog and pony show for what that's worth.
but they're still doing it. It's ongoing
Yeah, they're going to keep doing this as
for as
far as I
long as they've
know,
got VIPs to send around.
I guess.
Um, is this good? I don't even know what to make
It's
of this. I mean,
it's
I'm not shocked that they did not make the deadline. I am shocked that they got something going, but then again, Tesla stands have been singing the praises of full self-driving. This should have been able to do this years ago, according to so many people online. So is there, I don't know. Tell me about it.
so it kind of launched kind of on time, kind of, I think. Um like I said, at least like the public optics of it, you know. Um this is still in a small geofenced area of Austin. Um invitation only initially. Um, so early access group, flat rate of 420 a ride.
Whoa. When will that joke ever not be funny?
Anyway, so yeah, so didn't not a safety driver, a safety passenger. So no one behind the wheel in the driver's seat, but like you said, the guy sitting in the passenger seat with the oh crap button or whatever.
The interesting part about that, to get into politics, because our listeners love it when we do that, the irony of, I was reading this article on Forbes, that the the other company that has done this with the safety passenger was a Russian company.
Yandex,
Is that what it was? I don't know.
I'm guessing.
But it was a Russian company that did that. So Tesla has, when you type political stuff together, is following a Russian model, business model, of getting this job done.
Nothing sus about that.
No. All right, carry on. Carry on.
Anyway, so it's one of the cool things, if this ever becomes public, that I think would be cool, is I guess it has like portable like settings for your favorite kind of entertainment and media apps and climate. So while you're waiting for your car to come, you can preset the climate control and select your favorite streaming app or station, which is kind of cool. But to your point, this is, depending on your perspective, about 7 years late. So I don't know. It's here, kind of
Right on time.
Yeah. So in terms of actual paid passenger miles driven, Waymo is way out in front. And it's kind of ironic because a lot of people thought Tesla was the leader. Now, in terms of overall miles driven with FSD and its various iterations, Tesla is way ahead. But that is private vehicles versus, a commercial ride hailing fleet. So,
well, and it's private vehicles with a safety driver.
The owner
Sitting in the passenger seat,
yeah,
ideally following the rules that Tesla lays out, that you've got to be paying attention
yeah,
at all times, because it's not level 4. Is that what they're claiming?
This would be level 4, I think. Yeah.
And that's what they've been claiming, if memory serves, and it's not it. And now they're presumably taking that same, I'm guessing 90+% of that same software and calling it good to go. Now they've made it as safe as they can. They've geofenced. That's the only way that you can do this. And then they're putting Friends of Tesla in there, which now you can control the message a little bit.
Yeah. So anyway, I mean, so is this like the big game-changing launch? I don't know. Do they have cars on the road, on public roads, delivering the service? Yes.
Okay, I was watching a video the other day.
Yeah.
And it was at some event. I don't know what it was. It was a crowd. And there was a punching machine, where you punch the bag and it gives you the number to how forceful you were. And John Cena was there, wrestler, actor.
Yeah.
And he ended up at that thing somehow in front of a crowd. And I watched this on the socials. It was like, oh my gosh, how has he ended up in this situation? This is there's no win for John Cena. Like you're not a huge muscly wrestler and you show up at this punching machine. And unless you physically break the machine because you punch it so hard, you lose because somebody will be able to punch harder than you. So he stands up there and he does like his little wrestling thing and he like fakes the punch. And then he stands there and takes like a victory lap. And then he goes back and he fakes another punch. And he, is like, whoa, like you would in wrestling. And then he turns around to the crowd and he's like, I haven't punched anybody real in 25 years, thank you. And he walks off. There was no way to win in that situation. He either broke the machine or it was a failure. And he took the best route out. And I saw that, was like, wow, dude's smart. He knows how to work this system. So I look at this and I see this and I see Tesla saying, well, with its full self-driving, they don't really report the numbers. They hide a lot of the information. There's a lot of stands out there that will say how great this is, even though they've got to grab the steering wheel all the time to stop it from running into an 18-wheeler and all of this stuff.
Hmm.
So to me, this is John Cena at the punching bag. And they can't
Pulling punches.
they can't win this.
Hmm.
This FSD is not ready for this. They have taken as many steps as they can to throw the punch and do the like, oh, I'm going to win this. But it will fail. All of the other driving services, autonomous driving has failed. There have been failures with all of them. Tesla's been talking nothing but how, since what, 2019, something like that, how these
Hmm.
cars will be driving coast to coast with you sleeping in the back, making you money while you're at home. Your car will be out driving around as people get out of clubs and throw up in the back of your car. All this stuff. They've been talking about this for well over 5 years,
Hmm.
probably longer.
Hmm.
And now they're going to put them out there and we're going to see them fail. And there's not going to be a Stan in the car who can edit the video. These are
Hmm.
going to be like those Waymos that pull up into an intersection and
Oh,
just
and go in
stop.
the roundabout or just
Yeah,
keep.
that's what this is. And Waymo's not been out there saying our cars are perfect and that we do
Mhm.
self-driving, fully autonomous perfectly. They're not saying that, but
Hmm.
Tesla has been for years. And these
Hmm.
cars are now going to fail publicly. And this would have been like if John Cena would have thrown that punch, and we would have all seen that the dude can't actually hit anything.
You know what? I'm not. I mean, they just started doing this. I'm not going to throw the towel in on them quite that quick.
Oh, I'm
I
not saying
mean,
that they can't get there. I'm saying
yeah,
they're not there now, and that this is John Cena at the punching bag
yeah.
and
Well, I
actually
mean,
throwing
it
the
was
punch.
it was definitely a soft launch. It wasn't a global. I mean, if this would have been L.A., New York, Tokyo, you know,
Tokyo.
Stuttgart, you know,
I don't
worldwide,
think
just
I could drive in
crazy.
Tokyo based on the
Well,
videos that I've seen.
I think the average speed in Tokyo is like 12 miles an hour. So, anyway, um, this is a very small section of Austin. You know, will they eventually expand to other cities? Sure. I think at this point the question is, can they catch up to Waymo? Because to me at least, Waymo in terms of paid passenger miles driven is far and away the leader. Um, so,
Oh, I think they could catch up to, if this succeeds,
mhm.
Tesla could catch up to Waymo in a day
All
because they
right,
could open it up to you
yeah, to
and you
anyone.
just
Well, and
send your car out.
that's the other question that really wasn't addressed in any specificity with this launch, um, is what exactly the business model is. Um, and for a long time, this kind of goes back to what uh, Elon was saying earlier about, oh, this will work for you in your sleep, and it'll pick up drunk bar hoppers, and
Mm-hmm.
you know um, whether this will be a Tesla owned and operated service, or just Tesla has the platform, but it'll be up to the owner, like a guy that wants to, let's say an entrepreneur wants to buy like six Model Ys and just send them out to, on South Beach, or, Venice Boulevard or whatever, to make money while he's, in the club or sleeping or whatever. Um, or if this is going to be kind of a walled garden Tesla captive, business that they control, they get all the revenue.
It's going to be
Um,
both. They're going to have their own, they're going to sell it to third party companies. I mean, I'm just guessing. They're going to
mhm,
have their own limited.
mhm,
They're going to sell it to third party companies, possibly.
mhm,
Then they're going to do, uh, like, if you wanted to run your own,
mhm,
then you'd probably have to license it. So I'm guessing it wouldn't matter if you've got FSD and that
mhm,
you paid for the lifetime subscription and you paid the $12,000 at the worst possible time that you could have to get that. I'm guessing you would then need to get uh, a corporate account or something
mhm, mhm.
and then pay another $12,000. Or, well, they wouldn't really do it. For that, it would be a monthly fee. So they
Either
would
a
probably
monthly fee
take,
or a percentage or a cut
yeah,
of the
yeah.
revenue. Yeah.
They'll introduce another level. So everybody who's got FSD who's like, oh, this car can make me money. Well, it's not going to make as much as you think because
Mhm.
you're going to end up paying for another license for this thing. You're going to have to get a corporate license.
But I mean, this could be an opportunity for some people
Oh,
if they have the
undoubtedly, it could
potential.
make,
Yeah.
yeah, it could make you money as a fleet. Like if you own, I don't know. I mean, they'll come up with some number. If you own three or more, 3 to 20, then
Hmm.
you get this license. If you just got one, then you'll get this license. If you just da 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 da. Da.
Yeah.
That's probably where it's going to end up. But ultimately, where it will end up is some kind of crash, some failure, and Tesla's going to have to actually deal with
And the
the
scrutiny of
issue.
regulators, which evidently is already happening, according to you.
Well, there was a thing Tesla was being asked by Texas legislators that you were more aware of who it was than I was. But there's a law, and I haven't looked into what the law is, but the law goes into effect later on in the year about this kind of thing. And they were saying, well, Tesla, don't launch
Don't
right
get too
now.
in front of your skis. Yeah.
Yeah, that okay, technically you could launch right now, but if you do, then we want you to adhere to the new law that's coming out next later on in this year. Once again, I don't know what that law is, but that was kind of what they wanted to. I read some article that said this could be the best thing ever for Tesla because Tesla could miss the deadline and say, "Well, we're just adhering to what the legislators requested."
Hmm.
But they
Hmm.
didn't go that route. Tesla, to their credit, went and launched
Shoot
with
first,
this.
ask questions later.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I guess they wanted to just be ahead. And even though they had to cut corners to get there, at least they said that, they met a deadline. They'll put that on their resume. I don't
All
know.
right.
Let's
So
move on to something
to be
else.
determined.
Before we started this podcast, you were like, man, we're going to go for like 20 minutes just on the first thing. And it literally that's we don't have time for anything else.
Anyway, Toyota, who rightly or wrongly got the reputation for kind of being EV laggard, I guess is about to, I don't know if launch quite. They're planning to build two three-row EV SUVs for the North American market. So this would be like a Highlander or Grand Highlander sized vehicle.
Yeah.
Um, I guess they're going to co-brand one of them with Subaru, kind of like the Solterra, and
Yeah.
the now the BZ, not the BC4X. Um, so there's going to be a Subaru version of one of them, and I guess they're going to build these in Kentucky. So I've not been in that plant. I've been past it, and it is huge. I believe Georgetown is their largest plant in the world, actually. Um,
Is it one of those where like you're driving by it and
and
then
it
you're still
never ends.
driving by it like
Yeah,
a
pretty
minute
much.
later on the
It is.
freeway
It's huge.
and you're
It's
like, is that the same building? I don't remember where it was. It was fairly recently. I went by a building like that and it was something like half a mile long or something. You're driving and you're like, what?
I want to say Georgetown, the complex, at least driving down the freeways is like it's more than a mile long. It's gigantic. It's really mind boggling. But anyway, so originally they were going to make in their Indiana plant, which I don't know how big that is. I don't think quite as big as Kentucky, but
Not big enough, apparently.
I guess they're going to make that in Kentucky. I don't know what they're going to build in Indiana, but anyway, so there's that. So Toyota's starting to get in on the game. Um, so an even larger SUV, the Escalade IQ.
Hmm.
So our friend, not I don't personally know him, but I like to call him our friend, Tom Malogny,
Everybody's our friend.
um, who has the State of Charge YouTube channel, highly recommended.
Hmm.
Um, so he got one of these, and I guess the official EPA rating is I think 460 miles, which is pretty good. He was able to get 482 miles out of it.
Seems like a lot.
That's longer than I'd want to sit. I'd probably stop at least once or twice to use the bathroom.
No, it seems like a lot, but at the same time, one of my big complaints is about large SUV. I've got three kids.
Mhm.
So when I do a road trip, I don't want to have to stop for 30 minutes. And people are like, "Oh, well, you can stop and charge and then you go off." Okay, so if I have three kids and I stop and I charge and I got to charge for 30 minutes.
Mhm.
And okay, we've all got to go potty. Sure. We'll go find somewhere to go potty. But chances are you're going to, because of the way charging stations work, if where I stop will probably be a shopping center. And then at that point, they're going to be like, oh, I want to go in here. It's not like I'm stopping off at McDonald's and I can
Mhm.
run in, maybe buy him some nuggets and go to the bathroom and then head on out.
Mhm.
Instead, I'm now spending,
I want ice cream. I want
yeah,
this. I want
now
that.
all of a sudden that stop has cost me like $80.
Yeah.
They can't go back in the car because they're covered in ice cream and chocolate. And so what solves this is the not having to stop to charge. So I could
Hmm.
just stop at the McDonald's or the gas station or wherever has a bathroom or the side of the road
Hmm.
and take care of business, carry on. I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Even if they do it with a 200 kilowatt hour battery and they just brute force the thing, and so you're driving around in a probably what 8 to 9,000 pound vehicle.
About 9,000 pounds. And
Yeah,
also, I think about $140,000.
yeah, that is
There's that
also
too.
yeah. There's that.
Anyway, so, good on GM. Like I said, at first I kind of made fun of him for this whole like massive brute force approach. But I mean, I think honestly, where the technology is right now, I don't know how else you would do it with the large truck or SUV. So,
Yeah, it
other
really
than a range extender, I mean, that's the only other option
that
for you.
worked out great for Tesla. I mean, they sold none of those.
So, anyway, so evidently, this is according to Motor Trend, for what that's worth. Um, so
Wow.
this, anyway, um, they are uncovering, I guess, a revision to the National Electrical Code for 2026 that evidently, I guess the way they're interpreting that, and I guess you could, surmise that from the language, is permanently installed electric vehicle power transfer system equipment shall be installed by quote qualified persons. So that's kind of a vague term, but most people say that means professional electrician.
Yeah,
So
you'd assume licensed
yeah.
in some way.
Um,
Was this not the case before?
I guess it was kind of a generally accepted kind of thing, but not like codified. So now this is going to be like, I guess, kind of a requirement for it to be like officially recognized or permitted, I guess. Um,
Huh. Because, like, I mean, California's weird, but if I touch anything,
mhm,
I've got to get a permit, and that means I've got
mhm,
to have a certified electrician. Like,
mhm.
everything's got to be done by the books here.
Yeah.
So the idea of getting somebody out here to install one, an EVSE, like
Mhm,
hardwired
mhm.
in, um, and it not be through a licensed electrician. Like, I can't even fathom. I don't even know where I'd find a non-licensed electrician.
Well, I mean, of course, you got these DIY bubbas that are like, I
You
know
mean,
how to
yeah,
do this, or
yeah.
or people that,
If I were
oh,
to
I
do it
watched a
myself, yeah.
YouTube video, I know how to do this.
Yep. If I were to
Um,
try and do it myself, that's about the only way. I don't know how I could hire somebody that isn't a certified
yeah.
person.
So, I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is kind of a nothing burger. This is kind of like, so what? That's kind of just probably best practice anyway for most people. Um, I don't know. I
So
I
I
don't necessarily have strong feelings one way or the other on this, but I mean, I know some people like the right to repair folks might get kind of bent out of shape about this, but
I put this as the category of it's not a bad idea. It's like I can't think of it's almost everything. They always tell you whether it's in your house or your car or whatever. The step in fact with your car. I've been doing a lot
hmm
of car work recently. Step 1 is always disconnect the battery. And I'm like,
yeah,
but what I'm doing doesn't even involve electricity. Like step 1 in the instructions is always disconnect that battery. It's just
yeah,
safety first. They want
yep,
you to do this because they know you're an idiot and you're not a certified anything when you're doing this.
yeah,
So, yeah, I think it's generally, I mean, here with your house, you're dealing with a lot more than 12 volts. So,
oh yes,
so
yeah,
it's not a bad idea. I am very much one of those like homeowner special people. I will try everything until I electrocute myself, which I've done multiple times. Maybe you could talk or tell from the way I talk. So I'm one of those idiots that would potentially try this. But at the same time, because I would not want to get the electrician, I just get one with a plug and plug it into an existing socket. But then again, I've got
yeah.
that. I've got that. I mean, that was what you did. You got an electrician out, didn't you? And they just put a plug in. They didn't
Yeah.
hardwire yours in. So
No,
you,
which is what I wanted. I mean,
yeah.
but I told him what I was going to do it for. I said, I'm going to do this to charge an EV.
And he was like, your funeral. Here's the
Well, no,
bill.
but I mean, I'm assuming from that. I mean, I haven't really looked really closely at like, um, I think the recommended brand for outlets is like Hubble, or there's another one that's like certified for like continuous duty cycle
Hmm.
that they recommend, as opposed to just like an appliance plug.
Yeah.
Um, so, but I told him up front, I said, this is what I want to do this for. So and he was very, guy's been in business for like 40 plus years, very, highly um, thought of in the community, recommended. So I'm assuming he knew what he was doing, but
And you
I
didn't
was,
burn down.
no, still there.
Not
So,
yet. No, I read somewhere along the lines that one of the things that people do is they take their dryer plug and then they just swap out,
mhm,
like, oh, I'm not using dryer, I'll just plug in the EV and I'll use
mhm,
that.
mhm,
And then I read somewhere that you don't want to do that because the dryer plug was never intended for such a high load pull for extended periods of time.
mhm,
It was a shorter period of time thing, so you don't want to do that. And I was like, ah, that's interesting to know. Okay. I'll put that in the back of my head. Year goes by, whatever it is.
mhm.
And then there's a company that pops up that does exactly that, selling this like UL
Oh, the split
certified
volt.
thing, and it splits. So
Yeah.
then you can run like your dryer and one car, maybe even two, and it like smart splits all this stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. I was just told not to do this. And now
Yeah.
there's a company with a UL certified plug that does exactly this.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's more to it. I'm sure they vary the
Anyway,
voltage. I'm sure
so
something
this
goes
is not,
on.
an especially controversial thing to you.
No, no, because that alone, what I just said about the dryer
Hmm.
plug and everything
Hmm.
that I've
Hmm.
read, you need a pro. You are
Yeah.
gonna burn your place down if you don't know
Yeah.
what you're doing. If it's either a simple plug in or if you get to wiring, which I just literally just rewired my entire car.
Hmm.
Chassis harness, so I'd already done the engine, so I just did the
Hmm.
chassis this year. I still electrocuted myself with that.
With 12 volts.
12 volts, managed to ground myself while playing with the battery. And that's, it's just a buzz.
Yeah. And a
Reminds you you're alive.
few bleepable moments.
No, no, I had my arm near, because it's a race car, so I had a roll cage, and the cage
Uh-huh.
is painted, and you generally aren't going to ground through it.
And your
But,
wire that arced.
but it didn't arc. I plugged the positive in, and my arm must have been near where some of the paint was thinner on the roll cage. I don't know. And I
Uh-huh.
felt this like humming going through my arm, and I'm like, whoa, that's neat. I'm
Yeah.
going to take the positive off the battery now and wire in my arm the other way so I don't do that again.
All right. Well, glad you survived.
Yeah, I'm still here.
So, getting back, I can't remember when we discussed this, the big beautiful bill.
Uh-huh.
So I guess it's in the Senate now, and they're hashing out the final details. So one of the things they're proposing, I guess, is dropping the CAFE standard requirements completely. Corporate average fuel economy, for those that don't know the insider baseball lingo.
What
So
does this mean?
that
Does this mean
means
like no EPA requirements on anything?
I'm assuming maybe not.
Does this mean bring back the Hellcat?
Maybe. Well, they're bringing back the Hemi, but um, so yeah, they're talking about scrapping them altogether. Now, some companies that sell a lot of V8s, most notably GM and Stellantis, they're like, yeah, get rid of them.
Mm-hmm.
Others that have committed longer term for more fuel efficient technologies, namely Toyota and Hyundai, say they support revisiting the standards, but oppose the wholesale elimination of CAFE. I'll tell you who this would potentially hit the hardest would be Tesla and probably Rivian, because of their sale of credits to let other car makers be CAFE compliant. But if they don't have to be compliant, then guess what? There's no market for their credits.
This is really it's very short-sighted
Yeah.
because so okay, you make your point. Look at that. We're anti everything. We'll just drop these requirements. What do they think the automakers are going to do? Do they think that the automakers are going to go, oh, okay, well, back to 6 miles per gallon? Price of gas isn't 20 cents anymore. So there's that. There's if you go and you make a car that pollutes awful, like bilge and smoke out the back, people are going to protest against you at this point. And I guess you could say that, okay, well, the market will take care of it. But that's not really, I mean, to a point, you have to legislate people to do the right thing. Because some people will take the cheap way out and just pollute. But also, if you're an auto manufacturer, you're going to go, oh yeah, this is the new standard. No standard. I'll just make my cars to that. Or are you going to think in another 3 years there's a different president? And who knows what that brings? And it probably brings back, based on how this presidency is going so far. If there were to be an election again today, I'm going to guess it would swing into different political spectrum at this point.
Potentially, yeah.
Like right now, who knows what's going to happen in the next 3 years? But right now, like, I don't know. I'm going to guess that all of this would come back in the next 3 years. So if you're GM, Ford, whoever, you're not going to flinch on this. I wouldn't have thought. You'd say, yeah, okay, get rid of the cafe standard. So now you're not having to pay fees and you're not going to get hit with fines, but you're still going to progress the way the chart was made before they got rid of it, because you've got to be ready for the next president.
There's so many things I could unpack about this. Yeah, I think you have to, as a business, you have to have a longer, I mean, certainly there's, the quarter to quarter shareholder pressure, but there's also the strategic trajectory pressure. So I would hope if you're a major automotive CEO, you're looking 5, 10, 15 years down the road. So there's a couple things here. There is a niche market for high performance, low fuel economy vehicles, get 8, 10, 12, 14 miles per gallon. Those customers don't care.
Yep. And I think if
they
like
the
Ferrari,
power, they like the loud
Lamborghini,
engines,
all those supercar makers, I want those to exist.
Yeah.
Even if we mandate all EVs, I still want Ferrari to be able to make a gas powered vehicle.
And the other logic with that is they make so few cars that even if they get 8 or 10 miles per gallon, who cares? Like in the greater scheme of things, it's not going to make that much of a difference. There's that. Also, on the other end of the spectrum, there's the marketplace pressure of, let's say, Dodge comes out with a giant, Hellcat powered SUV that gets like 12 miles per gallon. Well, the Ford and GM and whoever competitive models get 20.
Yeah.
And what are people in that market going to want to buy? Most practical thinking people are like, wow, gas is expensive. I want something that gets better fuel economy. There's some guys that say, oh, I don't care. I want the 800 horsepower, But I would think the majority of customers would have a more practical mindset about it and would gravitate toward the more economical option. So, I mean, in some ways you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. So I don't know. There's a bunch of different ways you could look at
Based
this.
on what I just said and then what you just said, I hate us. We just said, let the rich destroy the planet. Us
And
poor
let the
people,
poors, have the
we
penalty
will be
boxes.
responsible. That is what both you and I just said.
Well, but
We suck.
I guess I'm a horrible socialist.
I would hate I do hate what we just said. Like, I still think it's probably true that the numbers are so low. Let Ferrari and Lamborghini sell their polluters, and that's fine because there's so few people that can afford to buy them. But man, why should the rich get a free pass on this stuff and then the rest of us have to slum it in a Tercel?
Well, you're dating yourself, Phil.
Yeah, no. I mean, that's the kind of car I can afford is the Tercel. Yeah.
Anyway, on that downward note.
Yeah.
You wanna
Yeah.
wrap it?
Yeah. We'll call that a day. Everything we talked about will be in the show notes. Perhaps AI generated. Go to the show notes and find out if they are AI generated or not. You go to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/@thewhatcar, and we may have AI generated show notes in there. I'm going to be, now that I've talked this
But
up,
you know what?
I'm going to be so disappointed if they don't exist.
We are not AI generated.
We're not, but if we work hard enough at this technology,
Maybe we could be.
we could be, and then we don't even have to do this. And then the
And then we
AI
could
could just
drive our
edit
gas
it.
guzzling Lambos and Ferraris and,
Yes, yes,
on our
fly our
super
personal
yachts.
jets.
Yeah. There
We
you
just
go.
need somebody to give us a $400 million Boeing jet, and we'll be
There you go.
go. Yep. What else do we have? I'm not going to tell people where to get shirts from because I already told you that.
Leave money on them.
Yeah, and we don't know if we make money. I've got to close that store. I've got to do it. TheWhatCar.com/advertise. Who wants to come in and advertise? The Republican Party?
Ferrari.
Come on in. Didn't we just talk last week about how we shouldn't
Yes.
talk about politics anymore?
Oh, there you
go. Okay, next week. I don't know. I didn't even know what we were going to talk about this week until we started recording. So why should I know what we're going to do next week? But I will be here. Ed, will you be here?
I'll be here.
Okay, so hopefully everybody who's listening will also be here. And tell a friend. Post it. That was what I didn't include. Post us on social media. Tell a friend. Talk to you later.
All right.